I want to welcome you all to the Scientific Communication Workshop Series. It is a series of 4 workshops that starts today with our lovely Diane Schwartz, who is going to do an overview of scientific communication with us. And I just want to tell you that if you come to all 4 of the workshops, you can receive a certificate of completion. And also, if you choose to complete a micro-credential, I'm going to be sending out an evaluation tomorrow. And on the bottom of it is going to be a message that if you wish to complete a micro-credential for a digital badge in scientific communication, to please contact me, and I'll have my email address, cmp9@buffalo.edu, and you can get a micro-credential / digital badge in scientific communication if you wish to do so. I also want to remind you that I'm going to be putting the exact same survey within the chat right at the end, along with the PDF of the slides that we're using today. And so that will be available for you as well. Our surveys are incredibly short. They take less than 2 minutes to complete, and they greatly help us to improve the series and also to satisfy the requirements of our funding sources. So Diane, you can go ahead and start your PowerPoint.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Diane Schwartz, and I'm a research associate professor in the Department of Biomedical Informatics at the Jacobs School, and also involved with the Clinical Translational Science Institute. We've been doing the Scientific Communication Workshop series for, I think this is the 7th year, and it's really an exciting and fun activity to bring together so many people from across the university, not just the Jacobs School, but to get to meet people from other parts of the campus who have an interest in communicating, especially about science and about the work that we do here at the Jacobs School. So what's this all about, and what are the goals of the program? By the completion of this program, we hope that you'll be able to communicate effectively about clinical and translational research findings that are developed here at the Jacobs School. And you'll be able to interact with members of the lay public, your family, your neighbors, the media, and of course, the all-important government officials. We want you to be able to explain why scientific research is important to the Buffalo community, to the state of New York, and beyond. Because what we do is so exciting and so valuable and so meaningful. I like to think about the 3 I's for explaining why communicating about science is important. Our goal is to inform people. It doesn't matter who your audience is. It could be your 5-year-old neighbor who's kind of curious about what you do. We also hope that you will develop the skills to instill enthusiasm and interest in the young people, the learners, kids in the neighborhood, your grandchildren, whoever, that will help us create the next generation of clinicians and scientists. We want to inspire people to think about what we do and love what we do with the same level of enthusiasm that we all have. So we think about informing laypersons, instilling an appreciation, a curiosity, and an understanding of what's involved in scientific research, and to inspire a diverse group of youngsters. Little kids are thrilled to learn about science, thrilled to be able to know what goes on in the laboratory. It's amazing how young people can be and nurture an interest in science. How about the 6 E's of what we do to make science understandable to the general public? We educate citizens. We enrich the reputation of the Jacobs School through that process. We personally experience professional joy and satisfaction by sharing our expertise, our knowledge, our goals for science with people of our neighborhood, our relatives, our family. We enhance the importance of funding scientific research when we communicate with government officials at all levels, at the local level, at the state level, and at the national level. And we establish a commitment to equity, social justice, and scientific literacy that is so important and really must be sustained. And one of the nice outcomes from all of this is it's a chance for you to expand your professional reputation. So let's talk a little bit about some basic principles of scientific communication. I want to start out with a picture. Who said a picture is worth 1,000 words? If you know who, please put it into the chat, and Catherine's going to look at it for us. While you're doing that, I'm going to give away the answer. It was Henrik Ibsen, a famous Norwegian playwright. Who would have expected a playwright to come up with that phrase? But he did. And it goes beyond Henrik Ibsen, because it's always interesting to try to figure out what that means. A picture is worth 1,000 words. It's incredible to think how complex ideas can be shared by looking at one single, still, fixed image. Sometimes the result can be more effective than a verbal conversation about the words or a written depiction of the words. That one picture can say it all, but there are exceptions. Take a look at this picture. Is this picture worth 1,000 words? What is it trying to convey? How could you simplify it? Those are a lot of questions. I want to stimulate to think about the next time you give a presentation and use a complex illustration like this. Here's another one that I just love, and probably the best scientist of all times. If you can't explain it simply, you probably don't understand it well enough. None other than Albert Einstein, of course. Here's another picture that will challenge you to think about simplicity. What is this telling us? It's labeled, it's a health information network that's available nationwide throughout the US. Beautiful colors, beautiful form and shape. I don't know what it's trying to convey, but I can find out. Another lesson. So some of the basic principles that I want you to take away from our discussion today include the following. Remember the KISS principle. Keep it simple. There used to be another word that goes into those spaces where all those dots are. I've dropped that. Former colleague of mine said, don't use that. It's not nice. But what I want you to learn from this is a simple 4 bullet points to take away. Stay away from scientific terminology. Avoid using jargon. Don't use abbreviations that you haven't fully explained. Write them out. Even if it takes up space and time, it's very important that no one struggle over trying to figure out what an abbreviation is, or for that matter, what an acronym is. Same kind of issue. So let's talk a little bit about a current recent challenge in the area of health communication. So here's a statement that somebody wrote about SARS-CoV-2. SARS-CoV-2 is a life-threatening disease to which all Americans are susceptible. Failure to vaccinate against SARS-CoV-2 places individuals, families, and communities at risk of death. Pretty heavy-duty comment. Now, I'm going to turn the table over to my colleague, Catherine Sedota, and she's going to involve you in a little challenging exercise. Catherine, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So I took these two statements and combined them into one small paragraph, and I put them into a Lexile reader. Now, I did use a term there, but I'm going to explain it. If you don't know what it is, it's okay. If you do, great. But a Lexile reader is basically responsible for figuring out what grade level these statements are. And again, I put it into one paragraph. And can anyone guess, and you are allowed to answer, I don't care. You can answer by chat or you can answer by unmuting. Can anyone guess what they think, what grade level these two statements happen to be? So we're looking for a grade level from pretty much pre-K all the way up to a 12th grade reading level. That's what we're really looking for at this time. Can anybody guess what they think this grade level might be? And yeah, I see a 9th grade. That's a good guess. Anybody have anything else? I'll see if one more person might want to guess.
I was also thinking 9th.
Great, excellent. So you both thought 9th grade. And you know what? I thought about the same, but I was very surprised that when I put it into the Lexile reader with 3 different Lexile reading tests, it's actually an 11th grade reading level. And the reasoning behind that is it's very heavy in jargon, which sometimes you do have to include. But it also has some pretty difficult words for some members of our community. So I'm going to challenge you to do something. It's called a chat waterfall. I want you to take these 2 statements and combine them into a simple sentence. And I want you to write that into chat, but I don't want you to press send yet. So all I'm asking you to do is, could you please take a look at these 2 statements and combine them into one? So I want you to tell everyone the crux of what this is saying in plain language. We're looking for anywhere from a 6th to 9th grade reading level. So that's what I'd like you to do. I'm going to give you about a minute to do that. Please enter it into chat, but don't send it yet. How could you take this and summarize it in plain language so most people will be able to understand it when they read it? I'll give you about a minute. And I'll tell you when to press send. And go ahead and send your responses in the chat waterfall. Excellent, we have them. I have some right here. Protect yourself and your families from SARS-CoV-2 by getting vaccinated. Get a vaccine. It's pretty straightforward. That's really good. I think there's one word that could be changed, but you did a great job with that one. SARS-CoV-2 is dangerous and everyone should get vaccinated. So that was very succinct. Here it is. Here's the word that's probably a little better than SARS-CoV-2. COVID is a virus that can make you sick. It is best to get vaccinated to prevent this disease. That's very plain language. Failure to get vaccine against COVID-19 put people at risk of death. Also, pretty plain language. If one does not get vaccinated against SARS-CoV-2, they are at risk of health issues up to and including death. That's also better. So what we're seeing is you are giving us, and if I were to put these into the Lexile reader, my guess is these would be closer to a 6th to 9th grade reading level. And that would be more appropriate for most of the public. And that's what we were looking for. If you notice, we avoided a lot of jargon and a lot of really big words. SARS-CoV-2 can always be changed to COVID. Most people now understand what that is. But you got rid of some of the more difficult language, and you really gave us the crux of what we wanted this to say. And Diane has an example of one too. So now I'm turning it over to Diane. You did a great job in the chat waterfall, everyone.
So here's an alternate way to say the same thing I said on the previous slide. Ensure that your audience will understand your message the first time they read it or hear it. Remember that, the first time they read it or hear it. And here's the way to say it. Protect yourself and your family from COVID-19 by getting vaccinated. That's the takeaway. Now, there are additional training opportunities that are available either for free or sometimes at a small cost. One is from the American Association for the Advancement of Science, another from the American Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, all very reputable organizations. And the third is from a sister university, Stony Brook, where the Alan Alda Center for Communicating Science is located. And Alan Alda was here several years ago and gave one of the distinguished speaker talks at the university, and I had the chance to meet him. And we were chatting, and I finally asked him, I said, well, it's great having you here in Buffalo. How come you didn't put the center that you're so interested in at UB? And he said, because I live very close to Stony Brook. So he then sent a team of his communicators up to Buffalo to do a workshop for us. And we were engaged in role play, sharing ideas, sharing information. We spent a whole afternoon together. It was absolutely wonderful. And I was just blown away by the quality of the work that they do. The American Association for the Advancement of Science has identified some very important data about the challenges associated with communicating science. One, that the US has a shockingly low scientific literacy rate. And two, the flip side is that outreach activities that we engage in can pay off, can have a huge impact using social media, writing an article in the local newspaper, or making presentations around the community. All of those can come home to really enhance and expand our standing in the community. Never worry about dumbing it down. Speaking simply is so important. Think about telling a story, just like my Alan Alda story. But when you do so, avoid equations, avoid those acronyms, abbreviations, and by all means, avoid jargon. The American Association of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology offers a course they call the Art of Science Communication. And if you're a member of the organization, it costs $25 for an 8-week-long session. And if you're not a member, the fee is $100. I don't know what it costs to be a member, but it might be worth checking it out. Now, I want to take a little bit of a divergent path, because if there are any clinicians in the audience today, I think you particularly will find this little YouTube video very worthwhile. It was produced by the American Medical Association Foundation quite a few years ago, but the message is timeless, and it is available on YouTube. This is the shorter version, and I think it's really worth listening to. It doesn't matter whether you're a clinician, a scientist, or just somebody interested in the whole concept of communicating about science. There is something in this for everybody. It is a very touching video. So please join me as we listen to this video.
I was sick a lot. I was sick a lot because I probably missed dosage and didn't realize it. I was in the hospital a lot. When they did give me medicine, I didn't take it right. I admit to it. I just didn't understand them, and I didn't have the nerve to ask them the right way of doing it. I just didn't have the nerve to ask them, and I didn't want anyone to know I couldn't read.
We had a child that was physically handicapped that I had to do physical therapy on. I would show up on Tuesdays instead of Thursdays for the appointment. I would be exercising the wrong side of the body.
I had a session here one time. Well, I had to fill out forms and I couldn't fill out, so I didn't go. I come back home. I ended up having to go to the emergency room that night because
Health literacy is the ability to read, understand, and act on medical information. Unfortunately, millions of adult Americans lack adequate health literacy skills. The doctors, researchers, and patients in this video are real, not actors. The situations, frustrations, and complications are also real. Nearly half of Americans have health literacy challenges. Odds are some of them are your patients.
Can you imagine what it's like, you being a patient and sick, and you know that you have limited skills, okay? And you're talking to an intelligent doctor like yourselves. And these people are using words that you really don't know because they're not speaking in layman's terms, okay?
Right.
Most doctors are just presuming that everybody's intelligent as they are, and that is just not the case. So what you do, you come out of that room, that examination room with this intelligent woman or man thinking, God, I hope I don't make a mistake with my medicine because I did not understand anything he or she said to me.
The heart of the problem is a disconnect between patient ability and healthcare communication. The average American reads at an 8th grade level, but healthcare information is often communicated at a college graduate level. This disconnect leads to confusion, frustration, and a feeling of helplessness for patients and physicians. While healthcare information can confuse even highly educated patients, those most vulnerable to misunderstanding are the 1 in 5 adult Americans who are functionally illiterate.
Take one capsule.
That's right, one capsule.
One capsule. I don't know what this is. That's
Twice?
Twice daily.
Okay, so how would you take this?
When I see it's not on, I tell you how to take it. It say take it twice daily, but it don't say what time to take it.
For people with limited literacy skills, the world can be a challenging one. 21% of adult Americans can't read the front page of a newspaper. 48% can't decipher a bus schedule or make sense of a bar graph. The problem is even worse in the healthcare setting, where emotions run high and vocabulary is unfamiliar.
Based on our decade of research on health literacy, our research group has documented clearly that patients who have inadequate health literacy are more likely to be hospitalized for their chronic illnesses. And this is regardless of their socioeconomic status, whether or not they have a primary care provider, regardless of how ill they are.
Tell me which one is which and what you take.
That looks like my medicine that he gave me for the morning. I take that and there's a little pill that, oh, this is the this is lithium, isn't it? Yeah, that's lithium.
Okay. And what do you take that medicine for?
Don't ask me, he puts me on there and I just take it.
Okay.
Anything he tells me to take, I'll take it.
Okay. So you trust him.
Oh, you better believe it, my life.
Research has shown that many patients have a hard time understanding basic medical instruction. 26% didn't understand when their next appointment was scheduled. 42% didn't understand instructions to take medication on an empty stomach. 86% couldn't understand the rights and responsibilities section of a Medicaid application.
Do you know what hypertension means, if I asked you what that was? Because when I look at this, I think, well, maybe you have hypertension and I've been taking care of that for a long time.
Hypered.
Mm-hmm.
Hypered.
Like you're hyper? What does being hyper mean to you?
That's where you can't be still. You always got to be doing something.
Do you think I think you're hyper? I have hypertension?
I don't know. That's what I consider it.
Okay.
It being, you know.
But you know you have high blood pressure. But hypertension doesn't mean the same to you. So if I ask you if you have hypertension, you're going to just think, I think you're jumping around on the chair or something like that. Something different.
It's being hypered, you know.
Okay. All right. Well, I haven't done a very good job teaching you what hypertension is, because I think you take that medicine for hypertension, and that's one of the things that I try to work with you on is your blood pressure. And high blood pressure and hypertension to us, the same thing.
The same thing.
Yeah.
Low health literacy impacts patients and all aspects of the healthcare system in many ways. In financial terms, patients with low health literacy use healthcare services more often and increase healthcare costs by an estimated $50 to $73 billion every year. The cost to patients can be equally high.
At approximately 30 or 31, I went into the gynecologist and complained about part of this not working correctly. And he said, well, we can repair that. Great. I didn't ask all the right questions. When I showed up 2 weeks later at the admissions office at the hospital, they put enough papers in front of me. I'll bet there were 5 papers that I needed to sign. Well, I wasn't going to say, excuse me, but I don't read really well, and I certainly don't read fast, and I'm concerned with some of these words. To me, it was lines and circles over sheets and sheets and sheets. And I wasn't going to reveal my sense of stupidity. So I signed everywhere they told me to sign. Never read it. And then a couple weeks later, in the follow-up office visit, the nurse said, "How are you feeling since your hysterectomy?" Now, I acted as normal as I could. Inside, my mouth fell open, and I thought to myself, how could I be so stupid as to allow somebody to take part of my body and I didn't know it?
A patient signs a consent form that they don't understand. They undergo a procedure and there's an adverse outcome that might have been one of the risks. There are legal cases clearly showing that these individuals can sue successfully in this setting because they did not give informed consent.
The majority of patients try to hide this. The majority of patients are not aware of it fully. They believe this is their fault that they don't understand.
If you have a reading problem, you go to the doctor. That can be very scary. It's like a nightmare. You walk in that office and if you realize first thing you're gonna have to do if that's your first visit is fill out a form. Your heart beats real fast. You're scared. You don't know what to do. You want to turn around and walk out. I have.
You have panic attacks. Did I do it right? Is this done right? Am I imagining things? Do I go back over and check it again? I've caught mistakes that I made, simple mistakes.
It paralyzes your thoughts completely to think that you may say something or something is put before you to read and you can't read it. I mean, you live with that on a daily basis.
People sooner or later will discover, and that is your most greatest fear. What day is it going to be when somebody discovers you can't read?
I would get mad about something and blame them that this is not the right place for me, you're not respecting me, and walk out. And it had nothing to do with that. It was just I need to cover that I couldn't read this. I didn't want them to know that I'm walking out because I can't read.
So you found solutions that sort of make it work and hide the real problem.
Yes.
So that others won't notice.
Right.
Doesn't that take a lot of your time?
Yes.
Doesn't it take a lot of effort?
A lot. Very emotionally. Yep.
It drains you.
Yep.
It almost doesn't matter why they're having problems understanding. It's my job to overcome that barrier so that I can get them the information they need to let me help them.
While we're waiting for research to be done on this topic so that we understand the best way to educate patients, we can still use the advice of the true experts, both patients and physicians who've cared for these patients. There are some things that we can do to help this. One, we need to make sure that the environment in which we deliver the care is an open environment and shame-free. Creating a shame-free environment in a doctor's office or a hospital means that there's an attitude of helpfulness by every person there.
When I walk into a doctor's office or a reception room, I would like to be treated as, even though I'm a stranger, that they know me.
Good morning, sir.
Because you're walking into what you might consider a hostile environment. It drops the defense, all the guards are down, the walls are down, the lines of communications are up.
Patients want to be able to feel safe, that they can tell the physician about their literacy skills, about their inability to understand their medical condition and receive help. Creating a shame-free environment can start with the forms that patients fill out as a screen for health literacy.
First, to identify them, short and quick, a questionnaire. 7 or 8 questions, and these are straightforward questions. I mean, we've really geared it at 5th grade level. And some of them can't answer the questions. But since the form is present on my desk, then I can immediately notice if they haven't answered the questions. So during the interview, I can bring that up. You know, my medical assistant, I noticed earlier, was helping you out with that questionnaire.
Yes. I'm dyslexic, so I have a difficulty in reading.
Yes.
And also with auditory memory. So things that I forget. So I'll ask you to, write them down, or I'll have my husband come in and whatever we discuss, so that I have a memory.
When we hand a patient a form, we don't just hand them the form and then they sit down and we kind of forget about them. So if they're having difficult time, you can pretty much tell from how long they've actually had the form. I see somebody sitting with that clipboard in their hand for 5 minutes, and I know that something is wrong. I take a detailed social history, which gives me information about a lot of things other than just their literacy, their cultural background and approach to healthcare. How much education they've had is a big question. And I always ask people who have had limited education or say that they have had difficulty in school, I always ask them how happy they are with how they read or how well they read. And often it's as if people have been waiting for somebody to ask them that. And I've gotten a lot of mileage out of that particular question. What kind of work do you do?
I'm a pharmacist tech and a DME technician,
DME.
durable medical equipment,
Oh, okay. And how far did you go in school?
12th grade.
How happy are you with how you read?
I'm not very good. There's always room for improvement. I'm better than I used to be. And it's not my reading that really troubles me, it's my writing.
One of the important interactions that can contribute to a shame-free environment is how you review a patient's medications with them. A very effective way to ensure that the patients understand how to take those medications is to have them bring those medications into the office. It's commonly called the brown bag test. And then I sit down with the patient and say, show me how you're supposed to take these medications. How did you get from the doctor writing you a prescription for you to getting to where you knew what pill came out of what pill bottle?
I guess, I think what I did is the recognition of letters, but not being able to read the word. I could recognize the letter and I knew that would be my accolade. And if they're different colors and different things, that helps. But sometimes because two of my pills, accolade and my tranquilizer are the same, almost the same. They're the same color, but because of the size, I have to put them together to make sure I'm not taking two of the same thing. So I try to be very careful. There are times if I don't feel well, if I'm not thinking right, I'm in a hurry, I have taken the two tranquilizers instead of one accolade and one tranquilizer.
If someone can read, they're going to pick up the pill bottle and read the label and tell you how to take it. Whereas a patient who has inadequate health literacy is going to pick up that pill bottle, take off the top, and they're going to look and say, ah, this is my oval little blue pill. This must be my pill for my diabetes.
I think my biggest asset is my front desk and my staff. They're very good at making sure that things happen in a timely fashion, and they can then give me a heads up about someone who they don't think can read.
The second thing physicians need to do is improve their communication skills. When you're trying to ensure patients understand, you can slow down. Don't speak so quickly so that the patients can understand what you're saying.
Well, you're right about the arthritis. Okay, it does affect the joints. Yes.
Patients or anyone can only remember 1, 2, or 3 things from a conversation. Identify what's most important to teach that patient and ensure they understand that before they walk out of the door and go home.
In the form of arthritis that you have, which is the most common, usually what happens is that inside the joint, there are 2 bones, at least 2 bones. Okay? And the bones are just rubbing off.
Use living room language. Use language that anybody walking on the street would understand, not just a nurse and another doctor.
You mentioned earlier that you were working on your home. Yeah. 100 years old. You notice my door. It creaks. It wears down. That door has a little oil, so it doesn't creak. When that oil wears off, it starts creaking.
What was interesting is that he used visual aids in the sense of he made a visual picture of what was going on, describing arthritis as being a joint in a door frame and not having oil. So this really helps out in the fact that you have a visual picture of what might be going on in your body.
It doesn't matter whether people are highly educated because this stuff is difficult to understand.
They're not doctors. And since they're not doctors, they shouldn't understand doctors' terms.
I am married to an engineer now, and this man has some health issues, so we are in the doctor's office from time to time. We will walk out of the doctor's office, and my husband, with all of that left-brain intellect, will say to me, "What did the doctor say? What am I supposed to do? I don't understand."
Mary brought in her husband, and it was very clear from the beginning, once they were together, how they have a dynamic that works. And the majority of the things that she does in healthcare, she may not be able to go 100% with it, but he's there to fill in the gap.
I use a lot of posters. I have lots of posters and models, and I think people remember it better if they can see it, or if it's associated to something that they understand already. So I think the models and the visuals all make a big difference. If the patient comes in with medication, a lot of times they're on so many medications, they're confused on when to take it, what it's for. So we do have a medication compliance sheet. And we do actually tape a pill that they bring in out of their medicine bottle. We tape it to the sheet, we write down when they take it and what the medication's for. It's really important that you don't say, "Do you understand?" Because they're gonna say, "Yeah." And that'll be the end of it, and you won't know what they understand. They may understand, but it may not be what you said. I think I use a teach the teacher mechanism. Like, now that you know this, I know you've got friends. When they ask about this issue, how are you going to tell them? What are you going to say? Well, one of the things that you can do if you have a really bad pain, I mean, where you can't stand on it and it's really getting in your way, is to use what I call, this is my little pain protocol here. It has ibuprofen, which decreases those little cells I was talking to you about, the inflamed part, and your Tylenol that just works on the pain. And the I is for ibuprofen and T is for Tylenol. And this just shows you how to do it over the course of the day. For breakfast, lunch, and dinner, there's an I, so you use ibuprofen.
Right.
Because you have to have something on your stomach.
That's right.
With that one, because this one will irritate your stomach. So in between meals and at bedtime, you use a Tylenol.
Right.
This way you get something every 3 hours. You don't overdose on either one. So it's IT, IT, IT. And if you do that for a couple of days when it's really bad, then you can just go back to your regular regimen. But this usually breaks the pain pretty nicely. So I know you have a lot of friends with arthritis. How would you explain it to them?
Well, for breakfast, I take I. 10 a.m., I take T. Lunch, I take I. 3 p.m., I take T. I at dinner. And T at bedtime. Is that correct?
There are a lot of simple things that physicians can do to improve their office and make it a shame-free environment. There's a lot of simple things doctors can do to ensure their patients understand them and ensure these patients have better health.
As we've seen, a shame-free environment is one that conveys an attitude of helpfulness. It's a safe place where patients feel more comfortable and are more likely to reveal literacy problems. Engage the entire staff. And remember, there are clues that indicate the possibility of low health literacy, for example, incomplete forms. Clues can also come from the information derived from the social history and insights gleaned from the medication review. As far as improving communication, keep in mind these simple techniques. Slow down, use living room language, convey only the most important concepts, involve family members, use visual aids, and employ the teach-back method. The physicians you have just seen are using a variety of communication techniques to better inform their patients. As research continues to unearth best practices, we ask you to join them and all of us at the AMA in finding and implementing simple ways to communicate with all your patients. Please let us know what techniques you have tried and what has worked in your practice.
There's no question. When a patient understands how to take their medication, when a patient recognizes that the physician really cares about them, their face lights up. And that is so gratifying to see that in a patient, that they know their doctor cares about them and that they now know how to best take care of themselves.
See the manual that accompanies this video and visit www.amafoundation.org to learn more about health literacy and techniques you can use in your practice.
Okay, so let's see if Ellen is here. But I do want to find out if they found anything surprising from that video, because there are some surprising I had witnessed when I first saw that video. Does anybody find anything surprising on that video?
Would you use that video in your own teaching opportunities? I think it still fundamentally does a good job of getting the point across that people from all walks of life, having all kinds of jobs, having achieved certain esteemed ages, still can go on through life and not be able to read. And that's the scary part to me. But it also drives home a point about what it takes to communicate, because you look at somebody and you think that's a middle-class person with a responsible position. They must know how to read, they must understand. And the answer is they don't. That's the really very sad part. Any thoughts to share? Did you find that video at all worthwhile? Any other thoughts?
I think.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Cedric. Go, please.
Yeah, I think it's useful in the way that it gives us, direct examples of how to speak to people that have like literacy issues. I think there are other issues that could be presented in a video like that. That, not just literacy problems. Like if somebody is hard of hearing or of sight, those issues might be also useful to present in a video like that.
Especially for somebody who has sight issues. I'm very sensitive to that because I have a colleague in my department who is unable to see. She is blind, and she's a very successful scientist, and she's amazing. But maybe I should have her come and talk to you all about what it's like to be a blind scientist. She comes to the regular, university classes that I teach and shares her experiences with students, and it's mind-boggling. But how you communicate effectively to a person with that kind of disability is an incredible challenge. And I'm learning a lot from her, and it really has expanded my interest in this field and moved them in different directions because of the personal hardships that she has overcome and has successfully overcome, and has gone on to achieve a very good career as a blind scientist. It's a very heartwarming story.
And Diane, Ellen is here. If you'd like to introduce her.
Okay, it is really my great pleasure to introduce to everybody my colleague, esteemed colleague, Ellen Goldbaum. She is, in my opinion, one of academia's most accomplished and esteemed member of the communications team. And that's the department called, the department is called communications, right, Ellen? University Communications.
That's right.
And she's going to share with you her own story, because she is so valuable to all of you. And we're so fortunate to have somebody of Ellen's capabilities here at UB. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the floor, so to speak, over to Ellen. And please give her your warm welcome.
Hi, thanks, Diane. I appreciate that a lot. Just to let you all know, I do work in university communications, and we have a sort of a beat system. So I do actually cover just the Jacobs School of Medicine, but there are other people in my office who cover all of the other units at UB. Our main goal is to tell the good news about UB and everything that people like you are doing at the university. And some of you have worked with us, told us about your academic papers that are coming out, and we work to do a news release, which sort of boils down all of the academic jargon and scientific findings into something that's a little bit more understandable by the general public, in the hopes that the general public, general media will actually cover it, call you and interview you. We also circulate all of the things that we write through on the medical school's website, in UB Now, and in other UB websites, so that your colleagues can know all of the good stuff that you're doing. I should mention, I mean, we've talked in past years sort of about how we work with the different units, and since it's been about a year and a half since Patrick Broadwater has been the head of communications in the medical school office of communications, and we work very closely now together. We have weekly meetings, and we sort of divide up all the stories that are going on at the Jacobs School of Medicine between us, and so we work very closely together. We do videos. We do tip sheets sometimes if one of you has expertise that's related to something going on in the news, and so we can get you out there as an expert commentator. Also, we saw that happen many times during the pandemic. A lot of you became trusted news sources, separating out the misinformation from the information, which is sort of a key goal for all of us, for our office, and that's sort of a key thing that we look to you folks for when media call us and ask, say there's some sort of idea in the news, or that people are circulating on social media, and it's great to have you folks tell what the truth is and get rid of misinformation. We also work with something called The Conversation. If people want to write something that's a little bit somewhat more opinionated, it's sort of like an op-ed. If you're interested in sort of getting information out there on a topic that's in the news, it's usually sort of a quick turnaround, but the people at The Conversation work very closely with faculty members, and that's also sort of a way for us to get you folks out there and to get sort of act as a bridge to get your very sort of sophisticated information out to a much wider audience. And then those essays or op-eds are then published, can be in Newsweek, Time Magazine, the New York Times. They get really good distribution. I don't have that much else to say. I thought if there were any questions, I would certainly love to hear any questions or, complaints. That would be fine too.
Is there a protocol they follow if they need to contact your office?
So I'm just at goldbaum@buffalo.edu. That's a fine way to do it. It's good to also contact Patrick Broadwater. I think is psb4@buffalo.edu. He's it's good for both of us to sort of get the same information at the same time, and we can decide who can if it's a story that we think we should cover, we can decide sort of how to divide it up. Sometimes also events. This is the same story with events and academic papers. The more lead time we have, the better. There's a ton of things going on at the medical school. There always has been. I think, with the new dean and everything, there's even more. So the more lead time we can get, the better. That we're better able to sort of plan things out.
There was a good example just this week. Andrew Talal just had a paper published in New England Journal.
JAMA. It was in JAMA.
Okay. And it was one of the two. Those memory cells are going, which is a very important and significant achievement. And I saw a lot of coverage for that event, shall we say, can we call it that? Because it is like an event. I saw it in the Buffalo News, certainly on UB Now, elsewhere. How did that take place? Could you share the scenario with us that might serve as kind of a good learning experience for our participants?
Sure. So he told us, he told us as soon as he knew that it was published, that it was going to be published. And so that was ahead of time,
Mhm.
a little on. So he gave me the paper. I went through it, and we've been reporting on Dr. Talal's work for a long time.
Mhm.
So I was pretty familiar with it. So I wrote a press release, and we went back and forth with some changes. He also had actually put me in touch with another person who was, so the gist of the paper is that facilitated telemedicine can help people who are opioid users, but who are involved in a treatment program at a methadone center, how those centers help those people who might also have hepatitis C virus, which is common in that population, to see if facilitated telemedicine would be an effective way to cure them of HCV, to get them to sort of stick to their medication. And as it turned out, it did. It was more than twice as successful as just sort of giving somebody a referral to somebody out, out in the community. So he also got me in touch. We quoted somebody who was the treatment programs, who was able to say how sort of a complex trial, but that it worked really well. So we worked with the journal to find out when they have, JAMA has obviously an embargo policy. So we wrote our story, we pitched it. They allow you to pick a couple days, and the paper goes live to reporters at like trusted news sources. And then those people can, I think someone from MedPage Today interviewed him. There's somebody from a pain publication, I think possibly Helio. There were a couple of different things, places that interviewed him. And actually now I'm seeing some requests come in from Spectrum Television here in Buffalo. Is going to interview him in a couple of weeks. And I think the Buffalo News is also interested. So it sort of almost comes with like a domino effect. People see things in the media and then they follow up with that. I will also say that's sort of a special case because for the people who funded it are actually doing a congressional breakfast about telemedicine, and they're featuring 3 people they funded, and Andrew Talal is one of them. So he'll be in Washington next week. And we're also trying to see if we can use that as a way to also get some media. So sometimes there's like multiple angles that we can sort of hit a story from. So that was actually a great example. Thanks, Diane.
Well, I think about one of my first really big NIH grants, and I went to you, and we spent a lot of time. It was a fabulous experience for me because I was a pretty new research investigator at the time, and I didn't really know how to start the process. And somebody said, "Oh," and I hadn't been at UB all that long, and I said, "Oh, you got to talk to Ellen. You got to talk to Ellen." And I felt kind of funny, bragging about what you do and what you get. But that's a takeaway from this workshop, is that you can't be shy. You have to be forthcoming. You have to be ready to go out there. And you're such a good guide. I remember the questions you asked me. You sort of led me down the path of how to share the achievement, how to focus in on what was important, what was of secondary value. That's the beauty of having somebody like Ellen, because you're such an experienced and forthright communicator that you know how to guide the person. So if you've done something that you think the world should know about, you need to contact Ellen and probably Patrick now at the same time, because you can't be shy. You have to push yourself to get out there. And that's not easy for a lot of scientists. I know it wasn't easy for me. I was really not very comfortable about doing that. My mother always said, be careful about what you say.
Well, I actually also another way to look at it, even if it's not just you, it's actually we need UB's people to be getting their stories out there. That actually helps the institution. It helps your unit. It helps your chair. It helps on multiple levels, and it's not necessarily, I know it's not your first or second priority, but it's really so important to tell even the local community what's going on at UB, because we are constantly, in a way, we rely on the support of the community for funding, for goodwill, for everything. So anything that's positive, that probably is of interest to the community, please do tell us, because we do want to know and publicize it.
And it's kind of a counter to, well, we brag about our sports teams, we brag about our beautiful Lake Erie, all of those kinds of things, And there's another side to Buffalo that we also have to brag about. And I believe that we at UB are at the center of it. So it's a way then to get the message out and the achievements out to our elected officials at the local level and at state and national level. And that really, that's how that can impact. The word gets out, it impacts on our ability to attract students, to attract, new members of the staff and faculty from all over the world. And we are very proud of the international makeup of our student body, undergraduate and graduate. All of those accomplishments getting out there help to establish our reputation and make us attractive around the world. And we do operate literally on a global level. We have offices for various schools. I know in India has a big contingent. I know in Singapore, one of the schools has a big contingent. We are all over the place. And it's building the reputation that really is so important to maintaining that reputation, I think is really what it's all about. So nobody can be shy. And Ellen will help you. She's really the fantastic guide, really.
And does anyone have any questions for either Diane or Ellen?
Well, thank you all for joining us. It's really been delightful to have you here. And we look forward to next week's presentation. Thank you so much, Ellen. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.